I'm once again reminding you about tonight's party we are hosting at the Blues House, which is actually nearby, with live music, snacks and drinks on us. And I would kindly ask you to take your seats because we are now going to have the next session now about Fintech and why is the Baltic region such an attractive area for Fintech. I have the pleasure of having one of the top Fintech people maybe in the Baltic Fintech area, Fintech region. One of the reasons of this session is that last year when we hosted a conference in Vilnius, we had to put together 4 Fintech sessions just for one day because there was so many people interested in that, just being interested in Fintech, and we had to even ditch a couple of topics on the agenda. So, I will start. Next to me is Asse Sauga. I would like to ask you to introduce yourself and your company.
Hello. Thank you for organizing this beautiful event and inviting me here. And yeah, my name is Asse Sauga. I'm in crypto space since 2013, almost 10 years. I'm co-founder of Estonian Crypto Association, which now just recently become Estonian Web3 Chamber. And then I'm co-founder of Redcurry, which is commercial real estate backed digital currency or cryptocurrency, solving the volatility issue in crypto space and liquidity issue in real estate. Otherwise I'm expert and trainer in blockchain field in Estonia and involved with a couple of other initiatives in that field and entrepreneur and investor as well.
Right, thank you so much. Next is Leib. Your name. Almost.
Hello, thank you also for the invitation. Pleasure to be here. Oh my God, my background or introduction is so multiple, like positions. So I've been in financial institutions like 20 years. I've been internal auditor in credit institutions, then board member of payment institutions, board member of VASPs. Then also now I'm also shortly to say and then I've been also as expert for court, like bankruptcy trustees, to evaluate whether some companies, how they, I don't know, reach to their money laundering cases. Then now I worked out with internal auditors a framework how to evaluate the VASPs at all, and now I'm also expert in this field of activity. And working many different institutions. Also, I'm also involved with Estonian Web3 Chamber and also advisor for Redcurry, so a lot.
All right, so family. Next up we have Tīna Lūse.
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you for inviting me. I'm an attorney at law actually, but here I'm in the capacity of manager of Fintech Latvia Association. And we are basically trying, and I think we are succeeding in building the bridge between the fintech companies and the regulators and policymakers.
All right, so next up is Saulius Racevicius.
Thank you. It's my second attempt to introduce myself. Represent here one company based in London, PSP Lab LLP. The company was created by those who really used to manage whether regulated by the Bank of Tīna or Financial Product Authority for electronic money institutions. And also currently I'm the founder and the acting board member of Fintech FLT. That's the professional association of supervised and licensed electronic money and payment institutions.
All right, thank you. And next up, local and Sorainen, a friend of ours in the Baltic region, Rumpa.
Hi, likewise, I want to thank you for having the chance to be here. I'm Agneta, as I was introduced, and I'm representing the legal sector here. Sorainen is a law firm working across all the Baltics, and Fintech is especially dear to our hearts because, to be honest, during the last couple of years, I have watched my colleagues in Estonia and in Lithuania with a ping of jealousy because crypto that was claimed by Estonia and Fintech was claimed by Lithuania, but we are very eager and very hopeful that actually these coming years will be a start for both of these sectors to really develop in Latvia as well. And so that's why I'm participating here, maybe trying to help that change.
All right, so here we have Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And first, I would like to start with the locals, of course, with Tīna and Agneta, and ask the first question for both of you about how has the reconstruction of the financial system in Latvia impacted the fintech industry, and what opportunity does it present for the fintech startups looking to set up their business in the country? So Tīna, you can go first.
Yes, thank you. I think that, like most of you most likely have heard, that we had we've been unfortunate with getting into Moneywall grey list. So our banking system underwent quite a serious reconstruction, and to come up with the needed level with the compliance issues, etc., etc. For that reason, I could say, and I don't know, I think that what Agneta just mentioned, I could say that fintech was left a little bit on their own, and because the government had other issues to deal with. But on the other hand, at this point, I think we have been quite successful in coming up to the needed level, and at this point we can actually say that going forward, our AML compliance, etc. systems and regulations are up to that level where we could actually be looking only into relaxing some regulations and not changing them drastically. So that offers a stable regulatory environment for the fintechs who want to come here, and they can be certain that in let's say 1 or 2 years' time there will not going to be some drastic change again in the legislation.
All right, thank you.
Well, I can only add to what Tīna already mentioned, and to say that this reconstruction of capital system in Latvia has posed opportunities is, I would say, a very optimistic view on things. But we have to remain optimistic, and I do believe that actually there is a good opportunity here because of these all changes, Latvian banks and Latvian companies, fintechs included, I would say have the best expertise in AML across Europe, maybe even across the world. So I'm really hopeful that we will get to see some, let's say, reg techs or maybe compliance-based techs that I can actually export their services to Europe, because we definitely do have the best expertise for that here.
And so are there any support mechanisms in Latvia that are in place for fintechs?
Yes, I can certainly say good words in that field for the Bank of Latvia, which is performing also the supervision and licensing of fintechs. And they have several mechanisms in place. One, for instance, is regulatory sandbox, where innovative fintechs can come and do like consulting stage and understand how to best license and how to prepare for licensing, etc. And there is also a separate mechanism that helps prepare for licensing in general for all sorts of, for all fields of fintechs that have to do that. And from my experience talking with fintechs, what I have heard is that there is feedback that says that working with the regulator, it was like working with another fintech just from the public sector. So that speaks to quite a great openness from the regulators' side, which is not very often what I hear from the regulators throughout Europe.
All right, so yeah, Agneta, you mentioned that other countries. So my question is that this support mechanism, how they compare to other countries?
Well, honestly, I believe that they compare very well, and we are actually very well placed because, yes, as Tīna mentioned, the level of accessibility and the level of business-mindedness of our regulator during these last years is really positively surprising. And we have heard the feedback from our colleagues, let's say that, for instance, I don't want to start a fight with my co-panelists, but I've heard that in Lithuania, actually now the system is a little bit more rigid than it was a couple of years ago. So I would say we compare quite well. And actually just wanted to add that another type of support mechanism is something that comes not just from the government, but also the association that Tīna here represents, and we have actually several types of associations for fintechs. Specifically, that's also a great place to start if you want to build business here.
All right, so since you raised the ball for Saulius, any comments?
Yeah, comments. Well, like to be a better guy, to be slightly disruptive, It's really good to tell that Latvia is a better place than Estonia is a better place, but it's not the case, The problem is that we're quite small and all countries can create excess capacity easily. And let's see what is the brutal reality, We're small countries with a quite limited access to the capital, and when it comes to the business expansion, which is vital to the business, we really have a lot of constraints. And frankly speaking, we are not competing with each other, Because let's take the new example, since the bid that France is really about to be announced as a rising star when it comes to the, the creation of the new fintechs, unicorns, multicorns, whatever they want to name it. And really it's a different situation where the capital market, easy access to money, and so on and so on. I think the biggest issue is really how to finance this sustainable growth. Because in order, to be sustainable, to be compliant, to be very good at doing commercial stuff, you really need to get capital. In order to get capital, you really need to have a business case. And let's say that the market of 3 + 2 + 1, say around 6 million people is really way too small, to reach this kind of a breakthrough, to reach the certain, the limits. And the idea is really how we really can reach this situation where we can be recognized as some kind of the financial centers. That's the biggest issue. I would put again on the table, the prudential issues, the availability of capital, ability to work with the capital, and on the top of the list, I would like to put really the business issues. Because again, business is really about incomes. Incomes, it's about sufficient capital. Sufficient capital is really about ability, to keep the compliance issues under control, to keep AML compliance under control and stuff like this. It's really, the problem is really with the market. The problem is really with the, how to develop capital markets, and whether we are capable, able to compete with new rising markets, for instance, like France, I don't know, maybe in the future, Holland, Sweden, and stuff like this. For sure, we have a lot of good stuff behind the curtain, like the really very business-minded population, We are really good at that. What we have also, we have really very IT advanced societies. It's a really huge asset. When it comes to regulators, I think it's really not about being bad or good. It's really about a certain level of sophistication, When the regulator got out of the blue 100, there was the biggest number, 141 licenses. It really took a lot of efforts to understand the comprehensive situation. And I really have this experience of working, say, with the regulators in Spain, in Cyprus, in the United Kingdom. Then I would say that the Lithuanian regulator is really quite sophisticated. It's very cooperative. It's not a case of Lithuania when you're supposed to wait like 6 months, to get the first round of questions, but it's supposed to be the issue, say, in one of the southern European countries. I see this as a single market, indeed with a lot of opportunities, but with a lot of challenges. And then the challenges related to the size of country, related to the development of the capital markets, and some kind of the perception. I want to really tell again, we're new kids on the block. No one really wants to have the competitors, and there might be some unwanted situations. Say there was the one scandal when the Lithuanian regulator was accused of some issues related to the fire card. But who produced this? Bafin produced. And then Bafin tried to find a situation where Bafin was really a good guy, and everyone just in some way somehow related to the consequences was announced as a bad guy. We're supposed to take into consideration everything is doable, but it's a hard work behind. I think our kids, our grandkids, they will enjoy the benefits of this situation for sure.
All right, so now we will still stay in fintech, but I want to ask the Estonians because they figure out everything with fintech, and now they are moving on to Web3. So that's it. Merit, Asse, how is the Baltic region positioned to become a hub for Web3 innovation and development? And what unique advantages does it offer compared to other countries? So maybe Asse, you could start with the first part of the question, and the second part.
I guess now looking back to the history, I can say big thanks to our adventure of the crypto licenses, which now ended up a situation where government has made a requirement that every WASP who wants to have the crypto license have to have the compliance officer in the company. And that has created enormous growth in competence of crypto-related compliance. So that has spread across the Baltic states. As far as I know, the other countries kind of have been followed in a similar route. So that's definitely one advantage. We have a quite high quality of crypto-specific compliance knowledge in a country. Other thing is that lawyers are well educated because, again, the huge demand of solving legal issues and consultancy become a thing in Estonia, and so many lawyers were needed. And third thing, again, which government implemented into the law, the necessity of crypto-specific audits, which has created, again, the knowledge of how to do in the auditor field, how to do the proper crypto-specific audits. And actually, we together with Merit have been helped as an experts many different audits to fulfill the requirements and to do the audits simple content audit together with the specific crypto audit. Yeah, I will bring out those three main things which I think are the advantage of compared to other world.
All right.
I would specify regarding the compliance officer having, it was also before, but the new requirement was more specific that you have to have at least so many years experience, you have to have high degree education, you have to have reputation, really good reputation, and so on. And actually the thing is that the same requirement has been also new for board members. And it's not actually written in the law specifically, but our regulations have taken the requirements from, for example, payment institutions, credit institutions, so it's similar. So it's in practice similar now for even Web3, WASPs, online gaming, and so on. And another thing, actually, what I would bring out is that also I've been also involved with creating for compliance requirements or writing procedures regarding payment gateways for online gaming platforms. This has been increasing enormously. So this is also pretty new. And also regarding the same topic, actually, it is that now we are more focused on third-party service providers, how to evaluate them. Exactly the same, like, for example, online gaming, they have as a partner, I don't know, for payment gateway, whatever. So this is also what the now has brought out as a new kind of requirement.
Right, so what kind of Web3 startups and projects are emerging in, let's say, Estonia, or if you know more about in the Baltic region, and how are they leveraging the region's strength to drive innovation in the industry?
I think today I can say that the most influential and most important company or project is Quartile, which was on the field same time or a little bit before that the Bitcoin came. But the Quartile blockchain is industrial blockchain, which is like closed and meant for the archiving mainly. Totally different purpose and built a different way, but still blockchain. But today they are now developing under the Quartile umbrella really fascinating, totally new blockchain technology from the ground up, which gonna change the whole industry. And Quartile technology being used in different Estonian country registries, has been offered as a service across the globe for the different companies and governments. So that I guess could say that is one of the biggest influencer, so to say. Then of course I'm involved with Chains Invest as well, which is one of the leading crypto trading apps in Europe, similar to Robinhood, for example, in US. Then I like to think that our project Redcurry, we are just in starting phase, but still have a huge potential to change the landscape as well.
Yeah, what I know, I've heard that one of VASP has been the project like e-gaming tokenization or something like that. I'm not pretty known about it, but I've heard it. So this is also something what caught my interest.
Okay, so getting back now to Latvia, and I'm asking Tīna and Agneta about if you can provide more details about the changes to the licensing procedures for fintechs in Latvia. And if you have maybe some feedback coming from the market afterwards?
I think I already shortly mentioned that the feedback has been extremely good. And the reason is that after we finalized reconstructing our financial system, the regulator really defined for themselves as a goal that we are now ready to welcome fintechs. And they really did this homework of reviewing the licensing processes. And one point to mention also is that last year the government also confirmed the fintech strategy. So, which means that it's not only a bureaucratic point; it's something that is defined as in plan for government that fintechs are welcome. And as a result of that, as I already shared, that the feedback is that the regulator is open, easy to access, easy to communicate with, we will definitely not speak about 6 months waiting for the first feedback on the documents that have been filed. And worth noting to mention also that this pre-licensing process, there you can go with your draft set of documents, and they don't have to comply with certain language requirements. You can file them in English, and they will be reviewed and looked at in English, and the feedback will be given. And so that is what I have heard is quite smooth and quite improved over the last years.
Okay, what are the Sorainen clients saying?
Yes, so actually recalling what the situation just a few years ago, we assisted a small payment institute, to be specific, e-money institution, to obtain a license. It was 2018, so basically just after all these issues with Latvia almost becoming a grey-listed country. So, of course, the regulator's focus was completely on money laundering prevention and not on fintechs at all. So back then, for a really small company, for a really simple licensing process, it took 6 months to get a license, but that was just like the official. It didn't include this pre-licensing stage. So right now, actually, Latvia issued, I believe, the first crowdfunding license in Europe, and that process took twice smaller time, so it took just 3 months, so definitely the things have changed up. And as Tīna mentioned, I would actually not really focus that much on regulation, but because you can have excellent regulation, but if there is no political will to actually implement it in a quality way, it doesn't matter. So the political will really now is that the regulator is actually acting in a way to assist these fintechs that have a good business case to succeed. Of course, if you don't have a business case, no regulation will help you there. But yeah, so basically we have a really good feedback about the status now.
It must be a very influential regulator.
If I may add, then it's really like few years back, it really was like, of course, you could come for licensing, but I think that actually the political will was that like, we're not going to take you on because we have problems enough without you already. And so now that has like certainly changed.
Okay, so how do regulatory requirements in Latvia for KYC and onboarding compare to other countries?
I think maybe Agneta can comment better on that, but definitely the feedback from the banks that are working with fintechs, and one of the problems that we still have to understand how to solve, since the banks had to improve all the KYC and anti-money laundering procedures, and fintechs like naturally are as treated as the higher risk clients. So what the banks are required to do, they are actually required to not only check the fintech as a client, but also all the clients of the fintech. So that is kind of a little bit burdensome for some of the banks, and that is the reason why some of the banks actually don't put it in their agenda to even onboard fintechs. But nevertheless, there are local banks also who are working with fintechs, and we have heard good feedback on being like really capable of onboarding, understanding the business processes, and that also is maybe one noteworthy point that banks maybe have been used to working in more traditional sectors. So for them, it's also like a learning process to actually kind of get to understand and train their staff on these new business models that are emerging, and to understand how to treat the risks and how to manage the risks. And also how to teach the fintechs who want to onboard with the banks, how to teach those fintechs to understand their risks, because that is also one feedback that we are hearing, that fintechs quite often don't really realize their own risks and their own risk level that they're dealing with.
Yes, I'm trying to put it in a positive way, but I can't really come up with anything better than just admitting that, to be honest, we have probably the strictest KYC and money laundering prevention regulations across the Europe, at least. and that again is consequences because of the history. So actually, let us, I'm not sure what will catch up first, the rest of the Europe, because across Europe it is known, we all know that anti-money laundering, the next directive, the sixth one, is on its way. So will the rest of the European countries have to catch up with Latvian standard, or will Latvia first kind of lower its standard? That's really, we'll just have to look and see.
Actually, I'd like to comment. To evaluate customer, we have done it years. It's in our legislation, it's written like a correspondence relationship. And we have applied the same approach also for VASPs and every other company. So this is not new for us. And we also have 2 crowdfunding licenses in Estonian. but yeah, in Estonia, like it's the same. Like also, for example, e-gaming or online gaming, it's the same. Like for example, like how I have done that. For example, you evaluate VASP, but you have a customer who is online gaming. So basically, which is like as a financial institution, according like similar to financial institution requirements. So basically, this is evaluating of customers. But it depends who is keeping the KYC data. If you have KYC data in your database, then there is no need to evaluate customers. If the KYC data is on online gaming platform, then you need to do it.
Okay, Saulius, maybe you could add a comment as well now.
Yeah, for sure, like that, because it's really about money. For sure, you can deal with the political will, but so when it comes to the execution, for sure, you should be aware of the quality of the execution, you know. And the quality of execution is really related to the human resources. We must get enough of the smart people to run it. It's related to the capital, because you're supposed to employ a sophisticated system, so whether artificial intellect based or not artificial intellect based, and for sure the business plan ability, you know, to scale that and just to attribute the story of Revolut, of Cure, and the similar contexts. Because without the business case, without the access to capital based on the availability of the business case, you won't be able, you know, to produce the good result. That's it, you know. It's really, when it comes to regulators, they're really very keen on talking about the political will, absence of political will, that they really understand. They would like to diminish, you know, the number of mistakes. They want to be recognized as reliable, as really smart enough to manage all the informations, to remove all the hurdles from the wheels, and stuff like this. And this is really about the quality. For instance, the Bank of Latvia, they really talk a lot about the quality. And quality, it really means the quality of our operations, the quality of our capacities. And just to get this quality, we really need to have the business, we really need to have access to capital. This is the most important issue. I would rather prefer to talk about, how to say, the general situation related to the, say, the sophistication or not sophistication of our capital markets, which is very important. Because talking about what we have in place, really, indeed, we have the competence. Finally, really, the competence of our lawyers, competence of our, say, the professionals is really very high when it comes to the AML prevention, when it comes to the compliance, risk management, IT security deficiencies, management issues and stuff like this. The issue is really the lack of the professionals. We really need to start importing, you know, the professionals. Again, question of money. Another issue is really the capital. How to get enough of capital to invest into quite expensive, say, IT solutions, IT systems. Because we really can do, we really can overcome, we can be champions, but it's a matter of capital. Say, summarizing this, okay, I'd like to say there is the quality in place, that's okay, it's plus. We have enough of, say, the professionals and other the smart people, especially on this station. But we need to start importing, that's for sure. And again, just in order, you know, implement more and more sophisticated, say, machinery, processes, IT systems, so we really need to boost our business, we really need to get access to capital. then we're going to have the really the good situation success story. And this is really not about it, but the Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia is better. You know, we're flexible. We can really move and to register, say the must in Estonia, some parts like the crowdfunding platforms. As Latvia is not a big issue. I see this as a single market. I think it's really just to create the capital markets capacities to finance growth, to finance boost of the industry. That's the most important issue.
It's similar like to the Baltic railway that you mentioned.
Yeah, say I'm also participating in some formats, for instance, like there is the Capital Markets Development High-Level Commission, the Tīna. I know that really finally we reached the point where there is the really very, how to say, efficient cooperation between the authorities in Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, where they're talking about, say, the ministers of finance, or talking about the regulators. They really were keen on, how to say, unifying, very keen on increasing standards just in order to boost the capital markets. They really realized that this is the biggest issue. The weakness of capital markets really creates a lot of problems.
I just wanted to add on that slightly. Actually, I do agree. We have most of the nicest and most successful projects that we work on. We don't work on them in Latvia. We don't work on them in Estonia. We actually work on them in all three Baltic countries. And I do agree that all serious investors do view this as a single market. So I guess what the tasks for future is actually to ensure that the regulations and attitudes of regulators, etc., are aligned to actually make it as a single market.
Yes, indeed. I would be really rather in favor of the unification rather than this competition. Having the unification of the legal system, strengthening of the capital markets would create a lot of the common benefits for all of us.
Okay, so Tīna, you mentioned that banks working with fintech are a bit like hesitant. And how do you think that commercial banks can actually support the growth of fintech in Latvia, for example? And can they be incentivized in any sort of way?
That's partly like $1 million question, I think, but one part of the answer is that here they have to be not at this moment even incentivized, but just encouraged to take on fintechs and to be certain that they will not face some negative consequences from the regulators afterwards because of their AML and compliance procedures. So that would be one part, and that is what I'm gathering from having discussions between fintechs and commercial banks, and that there is certain reluctancy because of lack of dialogue, maybe. And but of course, the other part is that I think in a great way, fintechs are becoming competitors to banks.
Exactly, yeah.
And that is something. How can you incentivize? You can't. There we will just have to see and to look and see how it develops. And that is definitely the thing. Like for instance, if we look at the consumer lending market in Latvia, they are definitely competitors, quite strong competitors. So, and there's like payment institutions and everything like. They bring about competition, so that is something that we have to face, sort of elephant in the room.
You brought up a valid point, and I think that it is already the big question for the banks, what direction they will choose, because if you're talking about fintech as a Web3 companies or cryptocurrencies or crypto technology, then at some point they don't have any option. The banks who are not willing to cooperate, they are gonna go away, let's say. And the banks who are more cooperative, then they can benefit from it because the technology is there and it's taking over. There's no question.
I would like to add, you're totally right, but from my point of view, the thing is that corporate, credit institutions, they don't automate their processes so much as fintechs. And that's the issue, so that's the fintech's advantage, that they, so many processes are automated. They are using so many different service providers for that. And in my point of view, that's the big thing. What is the difference?
Right, so it's like they say, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Yes, and it's that is really the key point here, because we say that fintechs are coming and competing with banks and providing investment opportunities. You don't really need to keep your money in deposit in the bank anymore. You can invest it in 1,000 better ways. And and that is the challenge that we will have to. It's going to be an interesting challenge to observe.
All right, so the question is, I think, for the whole panel in terms of Web3. If you Lithuania and Latvia, if you guys also want to add to this, you can add, because I want to ask Asse and Mary about how is the government supporting the growth of Web3, and how do you see its future in the whole Baltic area?
Great question, yeah. As being a co-founder and working almost 9 years with Estonian Cryptocurrency Association, and we have developed quite a good reputation across the Estonian country, government institutions. And thanks to that, we have really great relationships with all parts of the government, the Ministry of Finance, the tax office, the legal parts, the police, every part of that. And we have been involved in different crypto-specific, fintech-specific discussions quite in early stage, and we have been lucky to give an input into the legal development and the environment. And this process continues, and it's going even better, and more quality seems to be there. And I think that's really huge achievement, the cooperation between the public sector and the private sector.
Yeah, I would like to add, basically, the same, that we have been involved in many strategy developments, add our own comments, policymaker roundtables, really resourceful, meaningful meetings with actual results, and that has been really good. And also, I would like to point out that actually supervisory authorities are also now organizing more specific sector trainings for online gaming, for VASPs differently. And they bring out also separately what are the risk assessments. So it's specific for these sectors. So this is also very, very, very good.
I don't know how about in other countries, but in Estonia we have FCA Special Innovation Department, which is responsible of the fintech regulations towards the innovation and that part. So that's a good thing as well, but of course there is a lot to improve. There is a huge amount of resistance. If we look at the general picture, then huge amount of resistance, and the comfort zone, especially in the public sector, is really big. But we are aware that we have to tackle this issue constantly.
At least there's an open discussion about it, because coming from the Central and Eastern European side, you cannot talk to these guys. Even if you invite them to panels, they don't care. They just decline, they don't answer because they want to hide.
Yeah, the communication is the key to everything, yes.
So Baltic region is definitely at least cooperative. So how is it in Latvia?
I can also definitely say that, like, we also, with the Latvian Bank, which is the supervisor and licensor, we also have this innovations sort of department that is responsible for fintechs. And like yesterday we had a discussion that, like, in Latvia, in the Bank of Latvia, they also have, like, there are several departments. One is like compliance, fintech, and so on and so on. And then, like, even the fintech department is saying, okay, we see that maybe some other departments also have to undergo some change. But definitely this fintech department is, like, really very active, and one proof of it is also that since last year we started doing fintech forum that is initiated by this innovations and fintech department. So welcome to join this year again in October. And I think that like, not to compete between the Baltic countries, I think that they are also, like, really open to look at potential cooperations between the Baltic regulators as well.
Agreed.
Agneta?
Yes, well, actually tomorrow there is an event organized by Latvian Financial Intelligence Unit, so that is the department that is responsible for ensuring that there is no money laundering in Latvia. They actually have a conference organized specifically designated to cryptos. So that is already, like, I would say, quite an encouraging sign. But to be honest, of course, I would be happy to see crypto and anything IT related to be much more supported, both from the government sector as well as from, let's call them, these more like traditional financial sector participants. So there is a lot of work to do there still.
Right, Saulius?
Yeah, I would like to back this idea that at the Bank of Lithuania and other regulators, they're really very cooperative and friendly comparing to others. That's true. That's a really quite important situation, quite important asset here. When it comes to some new regulations, actually this is true, it's about the technology, but I would like to place attention over the PSD3, which is really could be the game changer. And I hope that we need to have the fingers on the process just to understand how we can gain the benefits, the fixed situation, and even the gain the better, how to say that, better situations and the consequences. That's a very important.
Right, so one question, or open question for the panel. Does the fintech sector attract foreign talent? So basically, are there any known companies that attract talent from other countries coming to live and work in the Baltic region in the fintech industry?
I think that definitely that they are doing that, because it's like this, it's simply a simple answer that, like, first of all, the fintechs that are incorporated here, they work in various different jurisdictions, so it naturally comes with also attracting foreign talents. But second of all, you know, we have as many people as we have, so we need to attract foreign talent. And a few months back, we had in our association this discussion exactly on how to attract the talent. And so and there I heard from various market players that they have, like, some of them even have, like, a case handler in immigration department, like, that is assigned for them because they are importing that much talent.
All right, anyone else?
Definitely attracts, but if you ask, does it attract more talents than any other sector, then I'm not sure. It has to I have to look some statistics, but in Estonia, I guess more talents are hired by the different big unicorns what we have, and the unicorns are not so related, current unicorns are not so related to fintech. I guess, yeah, there are more different industries there.
All right, so before we move on to the final questions, I would like to ask the audience if there are some questions for the speakers. Okay, yeah, no. So my question again for the whole panel is how can your country and the whole Baltic area continue to attract investment, because investment must be flowing in from different areas of the world to keep up the attracting investment and talent for the fintech sector, and how can they better support the industry?
Innovation is the key, definitely.
There's no regulator here, there's no politician here, so you can go.
Innovation is the key, embracing the different new technologies, because we are currently in a really deep transformational time. We are grateful to acknowledge that transformation in humanity in every field where we are looking, the old systems are gonna collapse and the new ones are gonna build up, which means that innovation is the really important thing to follow. And about the new capital, I think the thing where we haven't looked so much, if you're looking our location, then anyway the location is the most important factor in the business at all. And we have big neighbor here, which is currently not so welcome regarding different transactions. But behind the neighbor is even a couple of bigger neighbors, for example, China. So the Western world is gonna have to go through the huge transformation as well. So we might enter into the era when the Western world is not so popular in the future anymore, and then the power factor, global power factor in the world shifts to the east. So I think it's a great time to look into the Chinese capital.
Japanese and South Korean.
Actually, these Japanese is new, how to say, opportunities, kind of like a country, but like in my practice, people are thinking. But another thing is also that we should, I think, like all or like how to bring more in Baltics, that we should actually speak or like bring out more our country advantages. And this might not be known so much worldwide.
Okay.
Yes, like maybe I have only heard from successful and good examples, but the feedback that I keep hearing from the market is that if you have a good business case, then actually the money is there, and you have instruments to attract it, be it VC, crowdfunding, like even capital markets. And so that's the first point, and then again also the kind of maybe easy access to going public is noteworthy to mention in Baltics, because for instance in Latvia Nasdaq is doing a very good job, and again they have this sandbox that is actually helping the companies that are willing to look into public funding to prepare for going public, be it bonds or IPO. So, and that is maybe something that is not so known in Europe, but we have those instruments in place and they actually are working.
Okay. Agneta, I want to add to Latvia and Saulius for Lithuania.
Well, I hope I will not sound too wishy-washy, but actually I think that comes down to mindset. And at least for a couple of stakeholders, the mindset really does have to change. And to start looking at all of like capital, talent, at all of these factors, not as restrictions, but as opportunities. And also what Saulius already mentioned, to find ways to collaborate and make this a whole Baltic market attractive, and that really is, first of all, just a mindset thing.
First of all, I think we need to change our mentality because, frankly speaking, we live in quite wealthy societies with a lot of money, and that's the fact that, for instance, within commercial banks, they kept in the euro system, in the Bank of Lithuania, around the 22 billion of excess money. They have no idea how to use. That's a really big number, and it is really how to fix, how to create, the functional local capital markets. That will be the first issue. And having the local functioning markets, for sure we can start attracting and also big amounts of money from growth. It's really everything is in our heads. It's, first of all, we need to change the mind. We're as good as Scandinavians, we can do even better because we're still vibrant, we're still alive, we're still very keen on doing something. And that's it, and never give up. That's everything with us, in our heads, in our brains.
Since you mentioned, and I know that you are part of Fintech Lithuania, Fintech Hub in Lithuania.
Yes, I'm the board member of Lithuania.
All right, so my final question for everyone is that you should mention at least one or two successful fintechs that you are very fond of in your country. Let's start with you, Saulius.
Okay, let's start for sure. It's a Connect Pay. It's my honor. I was the founder, but for sure we have the Revolut, we have the Curve, and especially we got a lot of Hipthers from United Kingdom after the United Kingdom left the European Union. But again, there are like the 4 or 5 quite potential, say, to be nominated as a rising stars in Lithuania.
Okay, Latvia?
Agneta, we can put together our heads. I would say that we are all very proud of Mintos. we are proud with what Tīna is doing. Nordigan is kind of like a good story to mention. Crowded Hero, it's a newcomer, it's the crowdfunding platform. Someone else from the name, bigger names?
Well, you already mentioned 4, so that leaves me on the hook, I would say. Well, I actually do like mobility, although it's mostly known just in Latvia, but it definitely does make my day much easier because I only need my mobile device and I can get on any public transportation or even park my car, and I just need one app for that, so I love it.
All right. Web3 apps, Web3 companies.
From the AML or compliance is Sauga, then Lightyear as a neobank, Monesa as a neobank, Change Invest as a crypto trading app, then of course Score Time, then I would brought up the old dinosaurs as well, the LHV Bank, which just recently got a new banking license in UK, which I didn't even thought that it's still popular to have a banking license. But anyway, and then what else do we have there?
Redcurry.
Of course, Redcurry. Yeah, I think that's already most of it mentioned.
I forgot to mention a very, very important part of our fintechs because it's like consumer lending. It seems already so traditional that it's like, but actually like Sun Finance, who is like on tops of Forbes fastest growing fintechs all the time in the recent years, For Finance, Living Group. They are also, but to them actually we already look as the like very mature companies that have been there already for more than 10 years, except for Sun Finance. So that's why they are not the first to come to mind.
Actually, when it comes to the number of the, say, the unicorns, we got, I think, one of the biggest penetrations in the world, talking about Estonia, Lithuania, and maybe in future Latvia. It's really, there are a lot of companies in the very early stages, like it could be the champions in the future. We're talking about licensed payment service providers or the technology providers. Potential is very huge. It's really the main idea how to really boost and to provide with the right tools to keep it going.
Okay, Mary, you would also like to add to the list?
No, nothing. I'd like to be neutral, so I rely on Asse's answers.
we also had backstory, but this is unfortunately just had court cases between the co-founders, and the backstory was really hopeful. I think it was already 100 million valuation went towards the unicorn and served across the globe as a different gift card payments. But unfortunately, their future is unknown at the moment.
All right, so with this, I would like to thank my panelists for their input, and it was very valuable. And thank you for the audience, and now we move on to the next panel.
Thanks so much.